My name is Anne Currie, and I've been in the tech industry for nearly 30 years now, and I am part of the leadership team of the Green Software Foundation, one of the co-authors of the new O'Reilly book, Building Green Software, and I am the CEO of Strategically Green, which is a company that helps people become green in a sensible and cost-effective way. So today, I'm here to talk to you about how climate change is an existential threat, which of course we all know, but not in the way that you think it is an existential threat. My premise is that this is an existential threat in the very immediate term to enterprises, especially the kind of SMEs who are at this conference. So I'm not a doomer. I'm 99% certain that humanity will survive climate change. I think that I'm quite involved in the sector. I'm involved in a lot of the technology that's going on and being developed, and things are happening much faster than you think. And it will start to improve very quickly once it starts to improve. I think humanity will survive climate change. But although I'm 99% sure that humanity will survive it, I am 100% sure that all enterprises won't. There are an awful lot of threats on the horizon for SMEs. And so what kind of threats do I mean? Do I think your data center will burn to the ground as a result of climate change? It might do. I mean, I don't think that's the major threat, but it might do. There's certainly, I've heard of enterprises who have had data centers burned to the ground as a result of climate change. I don't think that head office, well, I don't think the main office risk is that your head office will flood. Although, again, there have been companies whose head offices have flooded as a result of climate change-induced weather. And I don't think that the Gulf Stream is immediately going to stop and we'll all be thrust into a new ice age, and all your software engineers will be encased in ice and unable to get into the office. Although, you never know. I don't think that those are the risks that we need to worry about in the immediate term. In the immediate term, the risks we face as enterprises are far more mundane, but far more inescapable and far more urgent. So, and they're the kind of risks that I've been talking about on stage for 5 years as coming. But now they aren't just coming; they are here. I'm sure that most of you are reasonably familiar with the new the legislative threats, the new legislative challenges that are coming, the new EU rules around reporting and around carbon import tax, tariffs. And that's already in the pipeline. That will be appearing very, very soon. But it's not only that. Dynamic prices. A couple of years ago, I used to talk about dynamic prices coming inevitably, but they're not coming inevitably anymore. They are here. So if you are in various countries in Europe, various regions in North America, you are already experiencing dynamic energy or dynamic electricity pricing. So your electricity is vastly cheaper at some times of the day when the sun is shining and the wind is blowing, and it's very expensive at others when you're forced to rely on fossil fuel power. And as time goes on, those differences are going to become more extreme because there's no way they can't be. The whole purpose of this is to drive change, to drive behavioral change, and it will happen. The change will be driven. Now, maybe consumers, maybe homes will be protected from this a little bit longer. Certainly in the UK, I think that's the plan. But there's really no reason why businesses should be subsidized forever in failing to change their practices to make better use of clean energy when it's available. So that is definitely coming. But those aren't the only risks. The risks to your brand, obviously, customers do care about this kind of stuff. You do need to be seen to be taking effective action. your workforce. Now, it's almost a cliche to say that young people really care about this and they'll make their decisions about where they work based on whether you are taking effective action against climate change. But I actually think that the more immediate risk is probably to your the older members of your workforce. It's not only young people who care about climate change, it's older people as well. It's me, it's most of the people in this room, I guess, by the fact that you're in this room. And we do have more scope over where we work and what we choose to do with our time. And we also might feel a little bit guilty about the fact that we've all had nice careers up till now where we really haven't had to worry about this stuff. I certainly have. It's relatively recently, only 5 to 10 years, that I've started to be involved in the climate change debate, or no longer a debate. But there are other risks. If you look like you're failing to get on top of climate change, it's challenging for your investors. It's challenging for your customers. It's challenging for your people who are customers of yours who share the same supply chain as you. So in Scotland, there is a term, a phrase, which is, you don't want to hang your jacket on a sugary peg. When it comes to supply chains, you don't want to hang your jacket on a sugary peg either. You want everybody in your supply chain to be taking active action to remain alive and survive the energy transition. Because as I say, not all of them will. So you need to make sure that you survive for the customers below you, and they need to believe that you will. And you need to make sure that the people that you're relying on are also taking effective action. Otherwise, their threat is your threat. The risk to them is a risk to you. So there are a lot of reasons to actually get going and start reshaping your company and how you behave around the coming energy transition. And it is a coming energy, well, it's not even a coming energy transition. It has started. There are loads of reasons. You need a plan, you need a strategy, you need an idea about where you are and where you need to be and how to get between here and there. And that is the reason why so one of the outputs that we had from starting to write the O'Reilly book, and a good thing that O'Reilly do these days is as you're writing a book, they publish what you're writing as you go along. It's very early, but it means that you get the chapters out there and you get feedback. And one of the early pieces of feedback we had on building green software was, is there going to be a chapter with a maturity matrix in it? Are you going to define a maturity matrix for being green? Because no one knows where we are, we don't know where we're going, we don't know what we're attempting to achieve. And I thought that was a very, very good idea. So yes, we are including a maturity matrix chapter, and we also approached the Green Software Foundation and asked if they would adopt it, if we defined it, and iterate it and improve it within the Green Software Foundation. And they have provisionally agreed to that. So hopefully it will be live within the first version will be live within the Green Software Foundation within the next 2 weeks. And you don't have to be a member of the Green Software Foundation, which is, Linux Foundation, it's pretty pricey. You don't have to be a member of the Green Software Foundation to contribute, to read, to use the maturity matrix to put in your 2 pence worth. You can do that even if you're not a member. It will just be, it'll be on the GitHub, and we'll be very, very open to feedback on that. And there's already a provisional version pre-GitHub that you can provide feedback on or make suggestions to, and you can get that through my LinkedIn profile or my Twitter feed. We're very, very keen to get thoughts, ideas, questions from real enterprises about the challenges that face you all. So what is it? What will the maturity matrix look like? Well, we have our preliminary version. And the idea, like all maturity matrices, you've kind of got 5 levels going from, okay, everybody's floundering, nobody knows what to do, which is where we are, almost all of us are at the moment. We're all floundering and we don't really know what to do. So don't feel bad if you're at level 1. We're all at level 1. And then you kind of have the acme, the ascent to a higher plane of existence of level 5, which is where you've done it. We don't need to worry about climate change anymore. Your business is completely safe and secure and completely using 24/7 carbon-free energy. And there's a gradual transition between where you are and where you ideally want to be in the long run. Don't feel bad about spending quite a long time at the early levels of this, because at the early levels, ironically, is where you'll make the biggest change. Towards the end, you're kind of tuning, you need a lot of data, it's really quite hard, but at the beginning, you can make strong progress. And there's no point in battling your way as quickly as possible from the beginning to the end, because the world isn't really ready for us to be at level 5 yet. Most of the tooling isn't there. The best tooling is available at the lower levels of this matrix. So we will make good progress when we start, and then it will slow down as we get more towards the end and become more expensive. But the tooling will catch up with this, which is good. So the idea behind this is level 1, as I said, aspiring. It's we all want to be green, but we don't really know how to do it yet. There isn't that much tooling out there publicly available yet. It isn't commoditized yet, and there isn't that much information out there yet. So it's perfectly okay to be at level 1. At level 2, you're starting to get actually some decent data behind what you're doing. You know what your scope 1 emissions are, you know what your scope 2 emissions are, and it's really well worth thinking about the fact that 10 years ago, level 2, what I've got on here on what we have on the matrix as level 2, would have been the acme of achievement here. Because if you know your scope 1s and you know your scope 2s, 5 to 10 years ago, you would have just bought offsets for those and you would have been carbon neutral and you would have gone, hooray, we're done. It's very interesting that 5 to 10 years ago, best practice is now only level 2 on a 5-level matrix. But don't become too demoralized about that. At level 2, you're getting additional data, you're improving the data that you've got, but you're also working on improving the underlying, reducing the carbon emissions from your existing systems. And you don't need that much data for that. So the downside is, at the beginning of this matrix, you don't have a lot of data. But the good thing is you don't necessarily need a lot of data, and there's a lot of low-hanging fruit for you to work on. So, for example, I think a great example of this was VMware. A couple of years back, VMware moved their one of their data centers in Sri Lanka, and they thought, oh well, if we're moving a whole data center, let's just go and have a quick look at the machines and see if there's any machines that we don't need to move because we're not really using them anymore. And they found that they weren't really using 2/3 of their machines. So that was an instant win of 2/3 of their carbon bill instantly, because the machines were on, they just weren't doing anything. 2/3, no measurement required, just a bit of concentration and effort. And that is the kind of low-hanging fruit that's available at the bottom levels of this matrix. So if you're only at level 1 or you're only at level 2, the good news is there's loads of stuff that you can do that's quite cheap that will massively cut your emissions. At level 3, we're starting to get better data. We've got scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emission data. Now, if anybody is even at this level, I would be incredibly impressed in this room. You should come and talk to me. I'll do a case study on you. There's hardly anyone at this level. You are working on the data that you've got from your previous levels. You probably at this stage only have data which is monthly or even annually, but that's enough for you to really start working on things that we know improve carbon efficiency, even without having really detailed data to help you with it. Stuff like choosing multi-tenancy when you can, or choosing spot instances. And then we're moving up to the higher levels of the matrix. We've got level 4, which is currently only achieved, we think, by Google, Azure, and AWS, because they have great data because they've got loads of power, loads of money, and they're very close to their they're in a position to put a lot of pressure on their suppliers to provide them with this data. So they, at the moment, have real-time data about carbon emissions from their systems, and they can start using that data to fine-tune their systems. And at this point, you can actually start to move more towards zero carbon. You can be tuning your systems, you can be getting that final 10% of carbon emissions out. And then at level 5, you're just absolutely humming on that. You've got feedback loops. You're doing the full agile on getting your carbon emissions out of your systems. So this is kind of the plan that we all need to be following to get to fully carbon zero, or even better, 24/7 CFE, which is the current name for the best practice in carbon reduction of systems, which is that every time for every watt you pull out of a local grid, there is a similar quantity of renewable power going into that local grid. So it doesn't mean that you're running straight off a nuclear power station, or you've got solar panels connected to your data center or anything, but it does mean that there is time matching between the power you're drawing out of a grid and the power that's going into your grid in terms of zero carbon electricity. Now, in order to get to, so I say, the first couple of you're using different techniques at every stage of this maturity matrix. At the beginning, you're just kind of doing the kind of bog standard stuff that's already commoditized. Really good operations, get it being lean, getting rid of waste, thinking about using multi-tenancy as much as possible. And it's not until you get to the final 2 stages that you start actually iterating around with good quality real-time data, and using that to start doing things like time shifting your workloads to times of the day or when there's green power available on the local grid. But that doesn't mean that there aren't wins to be made at every stage. And ironically, all the biggest wins are at the beginning, where everybody's floundering and we don't know what we're doing. That's the time where you have the biggest wins and the biggest payoffs to be made from investment. And it's just investment at that point in being very good at doing operations. So our book, Building Green Software, does cover an awful lot of this stuff, and it's written for everybody. It's not written for developers particularly. It's written by developers, but it's written for more general consumption. So it's quite nice. Our editors, our O'Reilly editors, who are editors, not developers, say it's quite nice to read something that you can actually understand. So this is, it's available already on the O'Reilly site. So you can, I think you can already read the first 5 chapters if you have an O'Reilly subscription. Or as O'Reilly is constantly reminding us to say, even if you don't have an O'Reilly subscription, you can do the free trial and read what's currently available. It will be coming out in book form in the middle of next year, hopefully first quarter next year, actually. And at that time, it will also be available under a Creative Commons license, because there's no point in putting all this stuff behind financial firewalls. So you'll be able to read it, access it, do what you like with it for free. Probably, we're hoping for April next year that the book will come out. Now, I'm going to be here for the rest of the day. I'm very happy to talk to people about this, about any aspects of being green and what we need to do. Just come up and chat to me. I will be very, very happy to talk to you, and we are pretty much at the end of our time. So thank you very much indeed, and hope to speak to some of you later. Cheers.